This is Join Us in France, episode 337. 337. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we look around France so you can best enjoy France as a destination. We talk about French culture, history, gastronomy, and everything it takes to have a great time in France. In 2019, Ellen Shaunessy took an 11-day trip to France in Burgundy. And this is the region of France that has some of the best vineyards in the world. And they spent some time visiting them. She'll tell us about that. They also learned about local gastronomy because what do you know? This is also a part of France that is famous for their gastronomy. So if you love French food and wine, this episode is definitely for you. If you like what we do here at Join Us in France, consider supporting us by visiting joinusinfrance.com/boutique, where you'll find all the stuff you need to make me a happy podcaster. Follow Addicted to France on Instagram to see Ellen's excellent photos of her adventures. I will post them this week. And as always, the best way to stay in touch with me and with the podcast is to sign up for the newsletter at joinusinfrance.com/newsletter. Bonjour, Ellen, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Bonjour, Annie. Such a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, all the way from Texas.
Yes. It is a warm 77 today with high wind.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
The weather has been awesome today. I'm actually thinking about in southern France, near Toulouse where I live, because I'm thinking about planting all sorts of flowers. But of course, I know it's going to get cold again, and I'm not sure if they'll survive. But, as soon as you get a warm day, you're like, oh, I'm itching to plant some flowers.
Yeah, that doesn't happen to me. I kill everything I plant.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, too.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk about your trip to France. You went to Paris and to Bourgogne, beautiful places around France. And I want to hear, a little bit about you, about what motivated you to travel and what you did. We want to hear all about your trip.
Sure. Well, I started traveling to France when I graduated with a degree in French from Texas A&M. I decided that I wanted to speak fluently, so I moved over there for a year. And I figured if I have this degree, I better be able to speak it, right?
Sure.
So I fully immersed myself. I worked over there for a year. And when I came back, I pretty much didn't speak French for about 11 years.
Oh, dear. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. I ended up getting married to someone here and decided that I really wanted to kind of get back into that again because that was my passion, was speaking French and culture and things like that.
So where did you study in France? What town were you in?
Well, I lived in Paris, and I worked at the École Nationale des Ponts et Chaussées, the engineering school.
Yeah, it's a prestigious school.
Yes.
Very
so
nice.
I learned after working there, yes.
Yeah. So were you like an English tutor or something like that?
No, I was the marketing and admissions assistant and also just kind of answered the phones and gave tours and sent marketing materials to people all over the world. And it was an amazing experience that I would recommend to anyone that's, graduating. Met people from all over the world, completely changed my life, opened my eyes to a different worldview, and it was just fantastic.
Wonderful. I'm glad that was good. And so 11 years later, you start coming back to France to reconnect with the country you had lost touch with.
Right. And I also had friends saying, oh, I would love to visit France. And I thought, well, I'll take you. I know quite a bit, and I traveled all over France while I was there. And so my friends and family just started asking, I'd love to go to France. And I said, well, let's go. So that's kind of how this all started.
That's great. Yeah, when somebody knows quite a bit about France, they become the France specialist, so people ask you to plan the trips and do all the reservations and all of that. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it's a lot of stress.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I love, the planning part. I love to, cater the trips to the person that I'm going with or the people that I'm going with and work in some things that are interesting to them. And that's kind of how this all started. I had a friend that I was working with that she was older and had some expendable money, and she just wanted me to kind of go and go with her. And it was just me and her.
Yeah.
And she said, you have free reign to do whatever you want. And I said, okay.
Oh, wow.
Do this. So it was fantastic. So we did have some budget constraints. So my first trip, I was trying to stick to trains, limit the car rental, because that's usually the most expensive thing.
Sure.
So I was looking at, where we could go on the TGV from Paris, because I knew we wanted to hit Paris, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I always do that at the beginning because that's when you have the most energy.
Sure.
And Paris requires energy.
It does. And it's also a good place to settle down for a few days until you beat some of the jet lag.
Yes, exactly. So I just kind of started looking at a map and the TGV train map and decided, well, we could get from Paris to Dijon in a couple of hours. And there's trains from there to Beaune. And that whole region is a prestigious wine region.
Definitely.
Which I didn't know at the time, but I read about it.
Yeah.
So then I started looking at, where can we stay along the train line? And that kind of limited, I think I used Gite de France.
Yes.
The Gite website. Yeah.
Yes.
So I used that because I had used that when I lived there. I found out about it there.
Yeah, you find some good places there,
Oh, yeah.
They're beautiful. So tell us why you chose that rather than other accommodations.
I feel like it's more locally owned places. It's not necessarily Americans owning places and then renting it out, which is fine. I'd love to be able to do that. That's kind of one of my bucket list goals. But
yeah.
But I really love the local feel. I love, to go to a region, get to know the people, get to know the region. What are the specialties there? What do people do on a daily basis here? And I just like to stay local and support local. Mm-hmm. So
that's great.
So that's why I chose that. And I had great experiences before.
Yeah, so that really helps too. And you speak French. Yeah. So if you had to interact in French with some owners, it wasn't going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, back then, everything was in French. The website, the contract, everything.
Yeah.
So I think now it's in English too, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they've slowly come to realize that they do get a lot of foreign visitors. So they need to, And it's not just Americans. I mean, if you're Chinese and you're coming to France, probably you speak English. So that's
exactly.
Yeah. So let's go down your travel, your route, what you did on different days.
Okay. So when we arrived in Dijon on the TGV from Paris, we went ahead and just took the train to our Gite. The first day I usually just, we go to the Gite. It's kind of a free day, relax, unpack. Maybe grab some food on the way in for breakfast and for snacks and maybe something for dinner that night just to kind of relax. Because after Paris, you kind of need a day.
Yeah, you need to relax a little bit. Yeah. Yes. It's high energy in Paris.
Yes. It's fantastic. Like, of course you have to go, but it's high energy. You go. And then you kind of get to the countryside and it's like, you kind of breathe,
Yeah, you realize how plugged in you were the whole time you were in Paris. This happens to me all the time. When I go and stay in Paris for a couple of, 10 days, a couple of weeks, whatever, I come home to Toulouse and it's like, this is small city. It's much, much calmer.
Yes. And you don't feel like you're missing in Paris, there's so many things to do. You feel like even though you're doing so much, you're missing something. There's something I'm not doing.
Yeah.
So that's the first day. Typically we get there, we go to the Gite or Airbnb. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of, for my itinerary, I try to schedule around different things that we want to do, like the vineyard tour. So I go and try to book a date, for that. And so that kind of gives you parameters for what you can do each day or what you're going to do each day.
Yeah.
Same thing for the cooking class that we did. That was only given on Wednesdays and Saturdays because that's when the market is open. So that kind of gives us, a date to work around too.
So it looks like on your second day, the day after you arrived in Dijon, you took a tour with a company called Authentica Tours?
Yes. So we wanted to see some of the countryside without renting a car and get some a feel for the wine because we didn't know anything about the wine region there. So we wanted to get a little information on it. So that was the perfect tour. It's a small group. It's like a minivan. It seats maybe 8 people, and I think there were maybe 4 or 5 of us that day. So it's almost like a private tour, and it's not expensive at all. I don't know how they stay alive. It's a fantastic tour. So they drive you around the countryside, and they tell you a little bit about the history of the region, how the vineyards came to be there from the monks, and the Roman times, a lot of Roman history in that region. And then they take you around to different vineyards, wineries, and we get a little taste. We get a tour of the winery and get a little taste of wine. They talk about, how to taste wine, of course, and the different grapes that they have in the region. And then we also did it on that one. I think we also did a cheese tasting. So they have different tours where you can work in different things.
That's cool.
But it was fantastic.
That's a nice relaxing thing. And you also did a tour with the tourist office. They gave you a free guided tour?
Yes. So when we, so the Authentica tour was in the afternoon. So in the morning we took a walking tour, and this was during the summer. And so the tourism office was offering free tours of Dijon. And so we took them up on it because that's, that never happens. We just kind of stumbled upon that.
Yeah.
We thought, okay, well, we have the morning to walk around. Let's go to the tourism office, see what we can find. Maybe they have a map, of course, things like that.
A good idea. Always a good idea to go to the tourism office just to see what they have for you.
Yeah, they're so informative and love to help. And they usually speak English, and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So, they actually took us around the Owl's Trail, which there's a picture that I shared with you of the little triangular owl. And got to see the major points. She talked about the spice bread that they have in the region. We got to taste some of that. And, of course, the Dijon mustard, the history of that.
That's great.
It was fantastic. And we stumbled into that. And that happens often when I travel. You just kind of stumble into things.
Yeah. And then the next day you went to Bonn.
Right. So that's
Did
just
you take the train?
Excuse me. We took the train. Yep. We had our cook's atelier, the cooking class, scheduled, and that's in Bonn. So we took an early train. We saw the sunrise in Bonn that day, and the market tour started, I think, around 11 or something like that. So we browsed the market before that started, and then met up with the cook's atelier ladies and got our tour of the market. Picked up all the food we were gonna cook with, and it was just fantastic. And she introduced us to some of the local providers in the market that they frequent, and the butcher and the baker, all the culturally authentic, parts of the region. So it was fantastic.
And they must have been impressed with your French, obviously.
It's funny. People usually will say that I speak French pretty well, but they won't assume that I'm an American, which I love.
Yeah, that's great.
So, they think I'm usually some kind of European, Northern European. So
excellent.
It's
good
fun.
for you.
It's very fun. I worked very hard on my accent. So
good for you. I know the feeling. I worked on mine too for English, and it's something that if you don't work at it every day, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then after you do the market tour with the cook's atelier, you go back to their shop and you cook with them, and they teach you how to cook certain things, how to cut things, little tips and tricks, really. But you're with a small group of people, so maybe there's 6 or 8 of you, and you all get to do a little bit. But then after that, they kind of finish up the meal while you go and sit down at the table, and then you just have this amazing conversation with people that you've never met, that you've had this experience with, and it's it's moving. I mean, you don't know these people, but you have a connection with them because you're all traveling, you're away from home.
Yeah.
You're experiencing French culture and you all love it. You're there, obviously,
Sure.
so you love it.
Yeah.
So you have a lot in common, and you just have a fantastic conversation, and it's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. It's enchanting.
Yes,
really.
I do recommend you take tours if you can, because the human connection is wonderful, and heaven knows that the tour guides have had it rough with this pandemic.
Yes.
And so they're all going to be so excited to have people visit again when it starts up again. So hopefully everybody will look into the Cook's Atelier, and then you did another Cave des Arômes. So you went, was this just an exhibit?
Yes, there was an exhibit that we stumbled upon on our way out of town that had, in wine, apparently there's all these different flavors. I'm not a oenophile or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it had all of the different, it had the dairies that you could, and it's a round glass container with different dairy things in it. And it has the aroma in it, and then it has a tube coming out, and you stick your nose in that tube and you sniff and you get that aroma. And then it had, kind of woodsy things, and then it had kind of chocolate undertones, so you smell all the different aromas that you can taste in wine, apparently.
Yeah.
And it was really eye-opening.
You can, but, it's really... it takes a lot of training to get to that point where you can say, oh, I smell a hint of, I don't know, spring flowers, or, whatever
right.
it happens to be.
Citrus,
or some people say cassis is a favorite. Cassis is the fruit, Anyway, so I'm like, oh, really? You smell that? I don't.
Yeah, no.
And I haven't even had COVID, and I don't smell it.
Right. It's kind of I like this wine, or I don't. I don't know what it tastes like. It's delicious.
But it's fun to talk about it and to pay attention to what you're tasting, really, is the point, I think.
Yeah. And I definitely learned a lot just from smelling those things individually, thinking, oh, okay, this is what they mean by woodsy. This is what they mean by dairy, or whatever it is. So,
yeah. But so you didn't go to see the Hospice de Bonne?
We did, yes. We did.
Okay.
That might have been a different day.
Okay. I'm just
when we
looking
went
at
back
that day.
to. Yeah.
Okay.
I've done this trip a few times, so this kind of became my thing when people wanted to go to France. I thought, okay, well, let's do my Burgundy, tour that I had. So
that's great
because I love it so much.
That's great.
So yeah, we did do the Hospice de Bonne. That is beautiful, and just an amazing amount of history there. Beautiful museum that they have set up in there as well.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's a fun thing to do, and it's just a pretty town. I think it's a little bit stuck up compared to Toulouse. Their personality is like more, but it's okay. It's okay. I can deal with it. It's just they're more standoffish than people in the south of France, or in the southwest of France where I live.
Yeah. I noticed that a little bit too around the market and things. People weren't quite as friendly as I expected. I mean, they weren't rude or anything.
Yeah,
they just weren't engaging, I guess.
Yeah, a little standoffish, reserved.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to day 8.
Day 8. So we had an open day after, the Authentica Tour in the vineyards, and then the Cook's Atelier day. Those were kind of busy days. So I like to have kind of an open day where we can relax, sleep in, do whatever we want to do. So the house owner, the Gite owner that we were staying with, they had a small plot of a vineyard as well, and they produced their own wine, which they provide a couple of bottles when you get there, which is another benefit of the Gite. They usually give you, like previously I've had a pie or jam or wine, whatever it is. So it's like staying with a relative. It's fantastic. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So every night you went back to this Gite is in Corgauloin. Is that how they say it? Corgauloin?
That's it. Yes. Corgauloin.
Yeah.
Yep.
So every night you took the train to go to Dijon, to go to Bonn, and every night you just go back by the train.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you could walk to the Gite. It's not far from the train. So it was great.
Very cool.
Yeah. The funny thing is, the first time we went, there was a little boulangerie in town. And we would get, bread from there or little, treats on the way home or on the way out of town or to have at the house. And then the last time we went, there was no more boulangerie.
Oh.
But they had a boulangerie truck that would come around every morning. It was the cutest thing.
Yeah.
It was so great. I thought, instead of just a food truck, it's a boulangerie truck.
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen those around. Yeah. Yeah, they're good. Yeah. Well, it's either that or the distributeur, the vending machines are also getting pretty common in places that don't have enough business for a full bakery. They'll have a distributeur but the truck coming every morning, that's pretty good every day. I've seen places where they go twice a week or something. So that's good every day.
Yeah, he was great. He was super friendly. So that was nice.
Very good.
So we took a bike ride. The Gite owner had like 4 bikes in the garage, and so we took a bike ride up the road to Nuits Saint-Georges, which is a very popular wine town. Yeah. Had lunch there that day, and it was great. It's a ride. It's probably a 20 to 30 minute bike ride. Yeah. But it's nothing difficult. It's pretty flat. There might be a couple hills, but
but it's not too bad.
It's doable. Yeah. It's nice exercise, after a couple of days of not much.
Well, and if you're used to doing a little bike riding at home, it's not going to be super strenuous. If you haven't ridden a bike in 20 years, maybe it's going to be a problem.
Right.
I know this because I'm getting back into bike riding, and I haven't done my bike ride for the day, so I need to get out there and do a little something, because if I don't do a little bit every day, my behind just hurts,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm getting there. Very good.
So then after the open day, we went ahead and rented a car the next morning. So we took the train to Beaune early in the morning, rented the car.
From the train station?
I think we rented this one in Dijon because we did the North Loop first. Yep. So we left out of Dijon. So these North Loop and South Loop drives I found in the Rick Steves guidebooks for Burgundy, and they were wonderful. Took you out of the city of Dijon into the countryside, beautiful countryside. You got to see the Charolais cows in the countryside, and which, by the way, if you get to have a hamburger from a Charolais cow in the Burgundy region, you have to do it.
Delicious, huh?
So delicious. So delicious. With a little Gruyere cheese on top.
Not bad.
Yeah, so good. So in the North Loop, we hit a town called Flavigny-sur-Ozerain, which is where they make the Anise Candies.
Which Anise candy? Do you know what they're called?
They're a little hard. They're called, I think they're called Flavigny.
Okay.
Anise de Flavigny.
Anise de Flavigny. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had those. I'm going to have to Google them.
Oh, yes. Cute little containers, too. Really decorated and very cute. Great gifts.
Yeah, that's a really good gift to bring to people because it's not heavy. It's, it's cheap. It's pretty. It's perfect.
Yep. Easy to transport and doesn't go bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't stink up your suitcase.
No.
Yeah.
Good.
That's also where the Chocolat movie was filmed with, I forget his name.
I don't know. Actors.
Yeah, that's okay. Johnny Depp and the French actress, beautiful French actress. That was a little bit filmed there. And then there's a fantastic farm-to-table commune cafe, straight from the farm, literally farm-to-table, not like, in the U.S. It's, farm-to-table, quote-unquote. It's literally farm-to-table here. They serve what is fresh at the moment and, make food with what's growing. So that's the Ferme Auberge Lagrange in Flavigny. So that's a great lunch stop.
I've had the candy, by the way. I recognize them. They're good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. Just a little hard, almost like a jawbreaker.
Yeah, little round things.
Yeah.
They do something similar in Montpellier, which I can't remember what they call them in Montpellier. But they're hard to find in Montpellier. But I've had these, I think they're pretty easy to find, these Anise de Flavigny.
Yeah. I think you can even order them maybe on Amazon.
Probably.
At this point.
Probably.
But it's more fun to go get them from the
Of course. Of course.
So a gorgeous little town, too. Just a nice little walk. Really old buildings and just lovely to walk around. Mm-hmm. And then we did not actually go to the Museo Parc Alésia. So apparently there's some Gallo-Roman ruins. And they've created a museum at that site, which is great. I would love to go back and see that. Mm-hmm. But we did go to the statue of, are you ready for it? Vercingétorix.
Yes, Vercingétorix. Yes.
Yes. Which is very impressive. And I did a little research on him and the Gallo-Roman wars and battles and things. And it was very interesting.
Yeah. I wonder, I don't know what the statue would look like. Because, you have this idea from Asterix et Obélix, because they have a character based on him. But I don't know what let me Google. Keep talking. I'll Google it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I included a picture in my photos too. But the funny thing about that is when we went there in 2014 with my two best friends, when we were walking back to the parking area, the Google Maps car was driving by. And we are still on the Google Maps at Vercingétorix.
Oh, excellent.
We love that. It was so fun.
Oh, he's got the long mustache and the long hair, the long flowy hair. He's pretty hot, I gotta say.
He is, right?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And he's up on a big mound. So he's up high. And
big pedestal.
It's very moving. It's nice.
Vercingétorix, Roi des Français.
Oui.
Yes.
Worth the trip.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then we did not go, next thing on my list is the Abe De Fontenay, but we did not go all the way out there.
I think we did.
Did you?
I think I did. See, again, I have no memory. I have to look at pictures, and then I recognize things.
Right. Yeah, it's a little further out, and if you're going to do all of these stops, I mean, you could go out there and then stay the night maybe out there and then come back, but it's hard to include that with a tour of it and everything with everything else.
It looks familiar, but there again, it's an abbey, so I've seen so many.
Right.
Cistercian Abbey, I've seen a few dozen. Maybe. I'll have to look through my photo. Anyway, but yes, it's very pretty. It's very beautiful. Would be a fun visit.
Yeah.
But it's true. That would probably be too much to do in a day.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd be getting back very, very late.
Yeah. So you did go to Semur-en-Auxois?
We just passed by it, and I think we pulled in and parked and maybe got a pastry or something and then left. Okay. It's beautiful. Yeah. Cute little town.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on the water.
And then did you visit the chateau at Châteauneuf-en-Auxois?
We did, yes, we did. And that's a very cute, just little walkable street town. Really, it's like one or two streets. And then the chateau is beautiful as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. Oh, I love that you're sharing your Burgundy tour with everybody. Everybody's going to do the same tour now. You know that.
I know. Maybe I shouldn't share so much.
Between you and Rick Steves, that's it. Everybody's going to be going there.
Right? I think it's more Rick Steves, so I'm not going to take the blame for that.
Oh, that sounds like a lovely day. And you kept the car for the next day.
Correct. Yeah,
and so that night you just drove back to Corgolloin.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all drivable, like not so far from where you were going. Was it an hour drive or something?
Well, that was kind of an all-day loop. We left at about 8 a.m. and returned about 6:30 p.m.
Okay, so a very full day, yeah.
Yeah, very full day.
Yeah, but fun.
Yeah, it's really nice to get out and see, even more countryside and meet people.
Yeah.
So that was great.
That's cool. And then the next day you did something similar, but you did a south loop.
Right, south loop out of Beaune. And this one's only about a half day. You could really do it in a few hours.
Okay.
It's very small. And you go to, we first went to the Tonnellerie François Frère, which is the barrel makers.
Yeah.
They start early and they end by about 3 p.m. This is also from Rick Steves. It's not an official tour or anything official at all. You just kind of, it's like a 1980s type of building. And then off to the side, they have some glass doors, and they're usually open because they have fires that are roasting the barrels. Mm-hmm. And you can just kind of go over there and look in. And so they're just working constantly in there.
Fun.
So if your listeners do that, I would recommend being courteous and just asking to take photos, because it's not an official thing.
Right.
So
it's always nice. And, it's very easy to just kind of, you lift your camera, you wave it, and you go, is it okay? You don't even have
point
to speak
to the camera.
French. Right. You don't even have to be like explicit, make full sentences or whatever. Just be very obvious about the fact that you would like to take a picture.
Right.
And then, they will say yay or nay.
Yes.
And be okay either way. Be okay either way. I've had people tell me not to take pictures. And you know what? I don't. If they say don't, I don't. It's their life.
Yeah,
they don't know that they're going to be looked at all over the world from my listeners.
Right. Exactly. But they were very nice. And they didn't mind.
That's good.
So after that, we rounded the loop, and there's a lot of beautiful views. I think the first time I went, it was in the fall, and so all of the vineyards had the beautiful fall colors. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend that time of year. Yeah. Very nice time of year. Yeah,
some grapevines turn like this red, and part of the leaf stays green, and then dark green, and then red. They're gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Yeah. So from there, we drove around the countryside, and then you end up at the Rochester Castle, which is a beautiful medieval castle with a drawbridge over a moat and everything. You know, every fantasy you can imagine, it has it. It's in the woods, and it's just gorgeous.
Very nice.
And a very nice tour that they have as well. It is, I think, in French. The tour that they do is in French, but they give you a laminated card that's in English.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
It's nice.
And places like that, it's always good to check their website before you get there, a few days before, just to make sure that they're still doing the tours and what time they're open and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And on the show notes, I will link you to all of those websites. Look for them. And, you might have done that already.
I put it in the itinerary. The link is in the itinerary.
Yeah.
You can just post the itinerary.
I will.
Fantastic.
You've done all the work for me. You even made it all pretty. It's great.
I tried.
It's great. And then you had your dinner there at a gite. Oh, your gite back to Corgoloin.
Yes. So we probably dropped off the car. Oh, no, we returned the rental car the next day in Dijon because we took So we had dinner at the gite, pack for your departure. So we kind of make that like a half day. And then the last day before we leave, I want to relax and get packed and clean up and everything.
So is this a gite that has a pool by any chance?
No, there's no pool.
No pool. Air conditioning?
No pool. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
You know what? I better not say that.
Maybe not?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe not. I think they have heat.
Well, that's good.
I'm not sure about air conditioning, to be honest with you.
It's very rare, a place in France that wouldn't have heat. That would be very unusual. But not have air conditioning, unfortunately, that's not unusual.
Yeah.
Okay. But it sounds like a lovely gite anyway, so.
It really is. It sleeps, let's see, there's 3 bedrooms. And so it sleeps 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6. I think like 6 people it would sleep.
Oh, so for a family group, it'd be great.
Oh, yeah, perfect. There's a kid's room with 2 single beds, and then there's another room with a double, I think, and then the master suite has a queen bed as well with its own bathroom, and then there's another bathroom for the other 2 rooms.
Cool.
So 2 bathrooms too, as well.
That sounds
great size.
Like good size, yeah. Good size for family. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And I love, and then the next day you just returned the car in Dijon and you took the TGV back to Paris.
Straight to the airport. It was great.
Oh, straight to the airport. Okay.
Yeah.
Because most flights for the U.S. they start around 11 a.m.
Right. Yeah, 11. And the TGV arrived, I think, at like 9:30.
Okay. So it was early departure. You left early, dropped off your car, because it's just 2 hours, right? From Dijon to CDG.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you get there in plenty of time to catch your flight. Excellent.
Yep. Yeah,
Excellent.
it was perfect.
So I love that you added your favorite regional specialties. So you have to tell us about those before we say goodbye, because of course I love food.
Yes. Well, that's, one of the joys of traveling is discovering a region and what their specialties are, especially in France. Every area has its own specialties, and I love to immerse myself in the culture and the regional specialties that they have. So I usually make a list before I go, do some research, make a list. And then, for lunches, when we go out to eat, for dinners, I'll try to select something from the list or ask the person at the restaurant, what their specialty is. Usually it's a regional specialty too.
Sure.
So the boeuf bourguignon, I think I've tried, 5 or 6 of those in the last 3 times I've been. They're so good.
Yeah.
So good.
It's good.
Yeah. The coq au vin, I think I've only had that a couple of times. It's not high on my list.
It's fine. It's fine. I added boeuf bourguignon. I included boeuf bourguignon in my cookbook, and I am planning on a second cookbook. And so I tested coq au vin because I hadn't had it in a long time, and I was like, this is okay. I'm like, take it or leave it. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people love it.
Yeah.
Some people love it, and that's great.
Yeah.
So, the poulet de Bresse, I'm sure I ate that in any chicken dish that I had, but what I remember is in the market, there's a really nice display of the chickens that are, with the head still on, that are wrapped up, ready for people to buy. And it's, they've got little flags in them, and it's a very nice presentation because that's, very special to them. So the poulet de Bresse is apparently...
And they're pretty expensive.
They were.
They're pretty expensive. So you buy a raw... the bottom dollar full chicken in France will go around €5. A poulet de Bresse will run more like 20 for a chicken. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's an expensive product. And I must say, I don't know if I've ever had one, because around where I live, they don't sell it. I've never seen it. Well, especially recently, because I just do most of my shopping through the website, and so they don't necessarily have everything on the website that they have in the stores, and so I haven't seen it. But
okay.
But it's a more expensive chicken.
Maybe for special occasions or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. To be honest, the next one on the list, œuf en morette, I did not try that.
I've had it. It's okay. It's like everything in Burgundy, it's a wine sauce with poached egg in it. And it's okay. It's again, you have to be raised on it, I think, to feel like, I feel like having œuf en morette today, I never woke up and said that.
But something to try.
And it's definitely good. And at the time, our daughter wasn't eating any meat, so it was good because she would eat eggs but not meat. So œuf en morette was a good choice for her. If you have a vegetarian, who will eat eggs, that's good.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. The Charolais beef, of course, if you can have a hamburger or steak with a Charolais
good
cow,
stuff.
Always worth it.
Good stuff.
You wouldn't think, you'd go to France and have a hamburger, but it's really good.
Oh, they make good hamburgers by now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then gougère, that's the little roll that's got cheese in it.
Very good.
So good. We actually made those at the market tour and cooking class.
That's probably not very hard to make, is it?
No, it's a little bit of a process, but it's not hard.
You just need to wait around a bit for like all breads, Yeah.
Escargot, I did not try in Burgundy, but I tried that later on It took me a while to come around to escargot. And I don't think I need it anymore.
Yeah. I've had them. I don't order that ever, but it's okay. It's fine. If you want escargot, Bourgogne would be the place to try them, yes?
Yes, absolutely. The Creme De Cassis, I always come home with a bottle of that because I love it.
Yes. Yeah, you make good kir and kir royal with Creme De Cassis. So kir is Creme De Cassis and white wine, and then kir royal is a little bit of Creme De Cassis at the bottom and champagne on top. Delicious.
Yes. Kir royal is my preferred aperitif.
Right. So it could be champagne, but it could also be any bubbly. I mean, it's, you don't need an expensive champagne when you're going to mix it with Creme De Cassis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the spice bread is regional, the pain d'épices. Mm-hmm. It's not like, I thought it would be like almost like a gingerbread, but it's not as sweet and it's not as moist. It's kind of a drier, spiced bread.
Okay. I don't think I've had that.
That's good.
Oh, and the last one, époisse.
Love it.
You love it?
Stinky and soft cheese. It's so good.
Very, very stinky.
In moderation. It's good in moderation. Right. You don't need a lot of it.
So it's funny because my husband is American born and he loves époisse, and I'm French born and I'm like, oh, no. So he likes the stinky cheese more than I do. But that happens, why not?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds all wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to me. I had a good time just reliving my own visit to Burgundy. And it's definitely one of those places in France that it's great for slow travel, but with a theme. If you like wine, it's a must-visit region.
Yes.
It's very good for gastronomy, although they do eat a lot of pork and a lot of wine sauces. But, it's a lovely place and a lot of beautiful monasteries and abbeys and the like as well. Just a gorgeous place to visit in France, I think.
Yes. And not as busy, I think, as some of the others.
Probably not.
It's kind of been a sheltered, hidden, it's not the most popular place to go, although I'm sure it's becoming more popular with
if you go in
like
September, October, it's probably quite busy because that's when all the wine connoisseurs show up for aux Hospices de Bonne. They do a wine, what do you call that, an auction.
Taste au vin?
Well, they do that
too. Beaujolais. The Beaujolais.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of things. Well, the auction is they auction off all the most expensive wines in France, so that would not be Beaujolais. But there's a lot of people who visit just at that time. I would guess that this area would be quite busy in September, October, and then not so much the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ellen. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I've really enjoyed your podcasts, and I share them with as many people as I can. I love it.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Again, I want to thank my patrons for supporting the show and giving back. Patrons get several exclusive rewards for doing so. You can see them at patreon.com/join us. Patreon, join us, no spaces or dashes. Thank you all for supporting the show. Some of you for a long time. You are wonderful. And a shout out this week to new patrons. Louis, your name is difficult, Louis. Beinsterig? I do apologize. Louis B. Ellen Snoyenbos. You're challenging me this week. Melanie Gazer and Jen Grieving. I think I got the last two okay. Thank you so much. Even if I don't know how to say your name, you have to forgive me. A French person, when faced with these names, it's a struggle. Thank you so much for becoming patrons and making this podcast possible. I did not publish a new reward this week for patrons, but I will next week because thanks to another wonderful supporter, John Barth, I'll be spending the weekend at the Hôtel de Brienne, a beautiful hotel in downtown Toulouse. He couldn't use the credits, so he passed them on to me. And so I'll spend the whole weekend in Toulouse, downtown. I live near Toulouse, but it's different when you're downtown. And I'll take my magic electric bike and we'll ride around the whole city. I know exactly where I want to take you. And we'll share that video with patrons and donors. And if you're a patron or a donor and you're not sure how to get to these things, go to addictedtofrance.com and log in from there. You should have a login by now. And if you don't, you can just ask me. I'll get one for you. And of course, another way to support this podcast is to hire me to be your itinerary consultant. It's not a free service, but I'm doing a lot of those and people really enjoy those because I clarify a lot of things that are probably floating in your head and you're not quite sure how to put it all together to have a great trip in France, and I can do that for you. Go to the boutique to see the details of how this works. So joinusinfrance.com/boutique. I had some lovely feedback about the last episode about Penn in the Tarn. Elizabeth said, what a beautiful photo. At first, I thought it was a painting. Oh, thank you so much. I love it when one of my photo works that way. Celeste said she thought Alice's pasta comment was right on. Mary said, this is the village where we first had hachis parmentier. And they didn't know what it was, but they ordered it and they loved it. And she's since made it using my cookbook, Join Us at the Table. So, well, that's very nice. Paul said, I just listened to your podcast about Penn and the village and the area around that part of France. Sounds to me like a must-visit place. And if I can't visit when I am totally vaccinated and allowed out of Australia. Yeah, Australians, it's hard. You can't get out just yet. Scott said, great episode. This village was on my list when we were there to see Belcastel, but unfortunately we ran out of time. And yes, Belcastel is not very far from that area, and we did an episode about that with Scott. Penn will be a must-see next time we venture out to the Aveyron and Tarn region. Yes, a gorgeous place for sure. And Susan says that Annie and Elise tell the stories so well. Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you, Susan. Oh, and I forgot. I need to also thank Gregory for sending in a one-time donation. He used the green button on any page on joinusinfrance.com that says, tip your guide, and that's much, much appreciated. All right, let's talk about how France is going to reopen. I know I said I was going to send out a newsletter, but it's a bit dry, so I decided it might be funner to do it on the podcast rather than writing it down. Now, as always, this is France. It's complicated and it depends. There are moving parts to everything. So France will reopen to business as usual starting on May 19th, but with different steps. The big dates are May 19th, June 9th and June 30th so far. Those are the big dates we know about. So for those of you who are hoping to visit France as soon as possible, by the time you come back, which is June 9th, just about everything should be open. But there will be attendance gauges for everything. So it's more important than ever to get your tickets in advance from the official websites of the venues that you want to visit. Museums and such will probably all require advanced tickets purchases because they will need to manage how many people are coming in. So to break it down a little bit, May 19th, restaurants, cafes, and bars can reopen their terraces, only terraces, and only at 50% capacity, and with a maximum of 6 people around the table, and everyone must remain seated, okay? So, yeah, not normal. On May 19th, businesses can all open as well, but the numbers will be limited. For instance, my daughter has needed to buy some new pants. Okay, we ordered some online and the fit was terrible, so I'm going to return them. She says, oh, I'll just go in and try them on. The thing is, she can't do it until May 19th. All of the clothes stores are not open until May 19th, and it's a pain because it's been so long since we've been able to go into a store and try on some clothes. By now, people are running out of clothes, you know. My daughter is anyway, and she's not a clothes person, you know. She's like me. She has what she needs, but no more. And so it's really annoying that we can't go do that. For the businesses, the rule is going to be this. This is funny. I don't know how are they going to measure. Obviously they know how much surface they have in their store, but are they going to keep track of how many people are in and come out and whatever? I don't know. Anyway, so the rule is 1 person per 8 square meters, and a square meter is 86 square feet. Of the store surface. Open air markets will be able to have 1 person per 4 square meters. So can you imagine at the open air market, somebody standing at the entrance of the market and saying, "Oh, you can't come in, too many people." It's going to be fun. Museums can open, but also with a maximum of 1 person per 8 square meters. Cinemas and performance spaces can reopen, but with a maximum of 35% capacity and 800 people maximum, even for the largest venues. Religious ceremonies and civil marriages will be restricted to 1 out of every 3 seats occupied, and they need to offset the seats. You know, like people behind you cannot be directly behind you. They need to be offset from you. Sports centers and swimming pools will open, but only to those who have priority, such as professional athletes and children. So if you want to go to the swimming pool and you're 35 years old and not a professional athlete, they might turn you away, but they might not, because maybe there aren't that many kids in that day. You see what I mean by it's complicated? The seats can be filled out in a stadium at a maximum of 35% and 800 people maximum, no matter how big the venue is. Now, that's on May 19th. By June 9th, which is the first day you can return to France for leisure, restaurants can open at full capacity, but still with maximum 6 people around the table. More rules may come into play depending on how much virus is circulating, of course. On June 19th, all stores can reopen without counting customers. So that's going to be good. Museums won't need to count visitors either, but with masks on, and they will probably require advanced ticket purchases for everything anyway, because it suits them. It was very difficult to impose that in the past. But after a pandemic, this is if they don't do it now, they will never do it. We have this controversy in France about pass sanitaire. So that's some sort of sanitary pass that shows that either you've been vaccinated or that you have had a recent negative PCR test. At first, the first law, okay, in France, the president can suggest a law. And then the law, so they can write it. They write it any way they want. And then they pass it on to the parliament, who's then going to discuss it. And if it passes the parliament, then it goes to the Senate. Okay. So the president suggested a law for this pass sanitaire, how it was going to work. Even people in his majority rejected it because they said it's not specific enough. It's too broad. And so they had to rewrite it in order to pass the parliament. And they did. So it's now now it's been written past the parliament. It's now going to be examined by the senators. And the senators are typically the most conservative of all in France as well as in America. And so it's possible that they will not pass it. But this sanitary pass is really a big deal because the way the president was thinking about this is once you have a sanitary pass, it's easy to let people into big venues like sports stadiums, big festivals like the Festival d'Avignon that Elise told us about a couple of episodes ago. All of these big events that are so important in the summer in France, if we have a way to quickly prove, yes, I'm good to go, you flash this QR code and you let me in, that's a very efficient way to let people in. If they have to start discussing with people and taking temperature and asking questions and looking at papers and all of that, it's going to be impossible to reopen efficiently. So I think it will pass, but right now it's still, up in the air. But by the time you arrive, June 9th at the earliest, I bet most of you will not try to come back until after the summer is over anyway, possibly next year. By that time, of course, all of that should have been worked out. As far as the infection rates are in France, things are looking very good in the southern half of France, with a few exceptions. You can see the details at covidtracker.fr, but around Lyon is still pretty bad. Around Paris, obviously, is still pretty bad. Big cities, unsurprisingly. But things are easing up everywhere. Hospitals are not overwhelmed anywhere in France at this point. The vaccination rates have been really good. We've had a couple of days over 500,000 vaccinations per day. And by the time you hear this, we should have 30% of French adults having had one dose of the vaccine, which is great. Better than I had hoped, to tell you the truth. This week, my daughter was able to be vaccinated because there's now a provision that if you find a place with an open spot within 24 hours, you can take it. And so she did. And I had to drive her to Castel-Sarrazin, which is a minor town about 70 kilometers away from Toulouse. And so while she was doing her Pfizer shot, I drove around and took some photos. And it's one of these interesting little towns that doesn't have really a pretty city historical center. It's all nice. It's a nice little town, but nothing stands out. They have a couple of churches with nothing much inside. It looks like a pleasant town. I talked to a few people. Everybody was charming and friendly, but it's not going to attract a lot of tourists because it's like, meh. Anyway, she was able to get her vaccine that way, and a lot more younger people are able to do it that way if they're willing to jump as soon as they see a spot and if they're able to drive some distance for it. So no vaccines are going unused. They're injecting as fast as they can, and they've opened they've opened it up enough. And I think they need to continue to open things up as much as possible because, a lot of French people want to be vaccinated who cannot. And I think maybe the fact that they prevented so many people from getting vaccinated for so long, it might have had the effect of, like if you tell a kid, oh, you can't have it, then they want it, right? And it might have had that effect. We'll see if it works, but it's going in the right direction. So I'm very happy about that. Oh, and this week I have been enjoying it's a guilty pleasure of mine. You've probably heard of the book and the movie The Martian. It's a book by Andy Weir. I'm not sure how you say his name. He's come out with a new book called The Hail Mary Project, or maybe Project Hail Mary, I'm not sure. And the paper book, the Kindle book, and the audiobook all came out at the same time, and I'm listening to the audiobook, and it's just a guilty pleasure. It's so, it's like pseudo-scientific, I guess. It might be close. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I just enjoy this sort of book, and it's been very fun to listen to take me into another world while I'm listening anyway. So that's one I recommend if you like space type of things. It's a good one. Very entertaining. All right. So show notes for this episode are on joinusinfrance.com/337, where you can see a recap of what we've discussed with Ellen and get links to the relevant resources. And if you enjoy the show, as always, tell a friend about the podcast and show them how to listen. Next week on the podcast, an episode about Rocamadour. Can you believe how many times we have talked about Rocamadour, like in passing, but we've never done an episode explaining the history of this amazing place? So Elise and I will do an episode finally about Rocamadour, and I think you will love it. Send questions or feedback to Annie@joinusinfrance.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir. The Join Us in France travel podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2021 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.